The Wyoming dawn broke in hues of amber and violet, casting a soft glow over the rolling plains where Clara Bennett's homestead stood. A widow of 3 years, Clara had carved out a solitary life on her patch of earth, finding solace in the rhythm of her chores. The crisp April air bit at her fingers as she stepped onto her porch, her late husband's rifle slung across her back, a tool more than a weapon now, its weight a quiet comfort. At 32, Clara had learned to trust her instincts, honed by years of tending her land alone. Her dark hair was pulled into a practical braid, and her hazel eyes scanned the horizon with a mix of vigilance and weariness. Today felt like any other, until it wasn't. Clara's morning routine was a familiar dance, feeding the chickens, checking the horses, and walking the fence line of her modest property. The creek that cut through her land ran high with spring melt, its gurgle a constant companion. As she knelt to fill her bucket, a faint sound broke through the water's song, a groan, low and pained, unmistakably human. Her heart quickened, a jolt of fear mixing with curiosity. Hand on her rifle, she called out, "Who's there?" No answer came, just another groan from the tall grass near the creek's bend. Pushing through the reeds, Clara found him, a man collapsed in the dirt, his fine wool coat stained with blood and trail dust. His face was pale, but even in pain, there was a refinement to him, his clothes too elegant for these rugged parts. A bullet wound marred his shoulder, the fabric around it dark and crusted. Her breath caught as she knelt beside him, her practical nature warring with the danger of what she was about to do. "Mr. Can you hear me?" His eyes fluttered open, a striking green clouded by fever, and he tried to speak, managing only a weak cough. Something slipped from his hand, a silver pocket watch, glinting in the morning light. Clara picked it up, her fingers tracing the engraving. To William Carver II, "Ich sicture so, from Father Westbury, Surasuri Tudman." His eyes closed again, and he slipped into unconsciousness. Clara's mind raced. The smart move would be to ride for the sheriff. Let the law handle this stranger and whatever trouble had followed him. But something about his face, vulnerable yet resolute, stirred a memory of her husband, Thomas Cernicudo, who died in a mining accident because no one stopped to help. She couldn't leave this man to the same fate. "Lord Derry, don't let me regret this," she muttered, resolve hardening in her chest. Dragging him to her horse was no small feat, his weight a testament to her determination. By the time she got him to her cabin, sweat beaded her brow, and the sun cast a harsh light on her decision. This stranger, William Carver or whoever he was, had just pulled her into a storm she hadn't seen coming. Inside, Clara worked with the efficiency of a woman who'd seen her share of wounds. Her old medicine box, a relic from her days as a Civil War nurse, bore the faded inscription, "Property of Dr. Elias Moore, Yerili Warna Surisuwan, 3rd Infantry." She opened it, the scent of carbolic acid and memories of blood-soaked tents flooding back. The stranger lay on her bed, his breathing shallow but steady. Stripping away his coat revealed a torso mapped with scars, some old, others fresh, telling a story of a life lived on the edge. "What kind of man are you, Mr. Carver?" she whispered, cleaning the wound. The bullet had passed through, a small mercy that reduced the risk of infection, but meant he'd lost more blood than she liked. As she stitched, her mind wandered to the pocket watch now hidden in her dresser. William Carver The name tugged at a memory, something about a wealthy family up north, tied to cattle or water rights. She pushed the thought aside, focusing on the task. His fever was high but manageable, and with care, he'd live, assuming trouble didn't find him first. A sound outside made her freeze. Hoofbeats on the trail, heart pounding. She slipped to the window, peering through the curtain. 3 riders passed, their eyes scanning the homesteads, hands near their guns. Clara didn't recognize them, but their predatory air set her nerves on edge. She drew the curtains tight and checked her rifle. "Rest easy, Mr. Carver," she murmured, settling in for a long night. "You're safe for now." But the weight of the watch in her pocket felt like a ticking clock, counting down to chaos. Days passed, and Clara's quiet life unraveled. She rode into the town of Dust Creek to restock supplies, her wagon rattling along the dusty street. The townsfolk's usual chatter fell silent as she passed, their eyes heavy with suspicion. At the general store, Old Man Harper greeted her with a strained smile. "Miss Clara, been a while. Town's abuzz today." His voice dropped. "Talk of Blackjack Kane. That outlaw, they say he's wounded, hiding out this way. Clara's stomach twisted, but she kept her face neutral. Just here for flour and salt. Mr. Harper, the Frushimatum. He handed her a crumpled telegram from the sheriff's office. Dangerous outlaw Jack Kane, wanted for murder at Carver Ranch. 5 dear aliens. Ian reward. Believed wounded. Heading south. Her blood ran cold. The name on the watch, Carver, linked her stranger to the very ranch Blackjack had supposedly attacked. Could he be the outlaw? Nothing about him fit the stories of a cold-blooded killer. But doubt gnawed at her. Sheriff Amos Reed stepped into the store, his badge gleaming. Miss Bennett. "Eight son," he said, his tone too smooth. "Heard you had riders pass your place. Seen anyone unusual?" Clara's pulse raced, but she met his gaze. "Just traders. Been busy with my fences." The lie slipped out easily, though it left a bitter taste. She left town with her supplies, feeling Reed's eyes on her back, the telegram burning in her pocket. Back at the homestead, Clara checked on her patient. His fever had broken, and his eyes were clearer. E1, D1, though pain still etched his features. "Where am I?" he asked, voice rough. "My homestead, Yashurfudadiyarusan, 20 miles east of Dust Creek," Clara replied, pressing a cool cloth to his forehead. "You've been shot." He tried to sit up, grimacing. "I have to warn, lie still." She cut in, her tone firm. "You're no good to anyone dead." A faint smile touched his lips. "Yes, Yinanmento. His gaze fell on her medicine box, and he nodded at the inscription. "War nurse. The Subunikanisurso, among other things," she said, measuring laudanum. "Now drink." As he slept, Clara found a half-burned letter in his pocket, its edges charred but readable. "Carver Ranch, protect water rights. Reed and men, using Blackjack's name, forge deeds, burn evidence." Her heart raced. The letter suggested a conspiracy, with Sheriff Reed at its heart, framing her stranger as the outlaw to cover a land grab. She thought of the telegram. The writers, Reed's probing questions. If William wasn't Blackjack, he was a target, and by helping him, so was she Waynewer. The next morning, Clara was scattering feed for the chickens when the sound of hooves froze her. Sheriff Reed rode up with 3 deputies, his borrowed badge from Laramie County glinting ominously. "Morning, Miss Bennett." He called, dismounting. "Mind if we look around?" It wasn't a request. Clara's mind raced. William was hidden behind a false panel in her cabin, a relic from her war days, but a thorough search would find it. She gestured toward the cabin, her voice steady, searching all the homesteads. "Gee, what, Sheriff one?" Reed's eyes narrowed. "Blackjack's trail leads this way. You're alone out here. Wouldn't want you caught unawares." Inside, his men tore through her belongings, and Clara's heart pounded as they neared the hidden panel. Reed picked up her medicine box, smirking at the inscription. "Warner, Simonin. There was Shorn. Lot of supplies for fence cuts. I help neighbors," she said coolly. "Doctor's 2 days' ride." A deputy called out, holding bloodied rags. "Sir, Sheriff. Look at this, Uri." To Yirdarwam, Clara's mind raced, then settled on a half-truth. "Mrs. Larson's boy cut himself on wire. I burned most of the bandages, saved some to clean." Then another deputy emerged, holding William's pocket watch. Clara's blood froze. She'd forgotten to hide it. Reed read the inscription, his face darkening. "Where'd you get Carver's watch?" "Miss Bennett." Her mind spun. "Bought it off a trader last week. Paid too much." "Probably." Reed's hand rested on his gun. "Funny. We found William Carver's body at his ranch. Shot dead, yet here's his watch. Clean as a whistle. His voice turned cold. "Where is he?" Before Clara could answer, a rider galloped up, breathless. "Sheriff, smoke signal south, near Miller's place." "Looks like we found him." Reed hesitated, then pocketed the watch. "We'll finish this later. Miss Bennett, don't go anywhere." As they rode off, Clara lifted the trapdoor. William looked up, pale but alert. "Smoke signals," she said. "Nharam, helping him out? Someone's helping us. But Reed has my watch," he replied, grimacing. He knows I'm alive. Clara nodded. Already planning. We need to move you. Reed will be back. And he won't leave without tearing this place apart. Under cover of night, they reached an old shepherd's hut in the high meadows, a refuge Clara used during winter storms. William sank onto a bench, pain etched on his face. Clara started a fire, her hands steady despite the fear gnawing at her. There's something you need to see. What from? William said, pulling out a folded document. It was his father's land deed, dated 1845, with a map showing water rights to 3 major rivers. This is what they're after. He said, whoever controls these waters controls every farm for 50 miles. Clara traced the map, realization dawning. These streams feed my creek too. If they get this, they'll force everyone out. William's voice grew heavy. Reed's just a puppet for the Western Land Syndicate. They killed my father, made it look like an accident. I'm a federal investigator. Clara Watson Mason, working to expose them. That's why they want me dead. Her heart skipped, but she squeezed his hand. Explains how you survived their ambush. You're not just a rancher. His eyes softened. Why are you helping me? Most would have turned me in for the reward. Clara thought of Thomas, of the difference between law and justice, because doing right isn't always about following rules. The next day, Clara slipped into Dust Creek's town hall for an emergency meeting called by Reed. The air crackled with tension as he held up William's watch, claiming it proved Clara was hiding blackjack. She's betraying us all, he shouted. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, but Clara saw doubt in their eyes. Mrs. Larson, Sir Mir Samaritan, friend or rating, and her neighbor spoke up. My cousin says there's more to the Carver Ranch story. Reed's face tightened, but he pressed on. Stoking fear, Clara slipped out, her heart pounding. Reed wasn't just hunting William, he was building a mob. Back at the hut, Clara found the door ajar and her friend Ellen Harper's horse outside. Ellen, we now need one son, her confidant since the war, stood inside, staring at William's empty bedroll, a revolver in her trembling hand. I followed you, she said, voice breaking. You're hiding a murderer. Clara's chest ached. Ellen, her sister in all but blood, wore a locket matching Clara's, or one, a symbol of their bond. It's not true, Clara said calmly. Reed's the criminal. William's a federal investigator. Ellen's grip wavered. I saw his watch at the meeting. Clara stepped closer, voice soft. Remember, Thomas, how they called it an accident? But you knew better. It's the same men. Ellen, Hooves approached them, and Reed's voice boomed outside. Miss Harper, signal if she's in there. Ellen's eyes flicked to her broken locket, spilled open on the floor, revealing Thomas's photo. Doubt warred with betrayal. Then she whispered, Go you want... There's a trail through the rocks. Clara squeezed her hand, tears burning. Come with us. No, Ellen said, forcing a smile. I'll buy you time. As Clara fled, she heard Ellen shout, She's headed north. Reed's men thundered past, following the false trail, and Clara's heart broke, knowing she might never see Ellen again. In the canyons, a hunting horn's blast signaled pursuit. William pulled up behind a boulder. They're using cavalry tactics. He said, his face grim. Clara's mind raced. We need to split up. They expect us to stay together. She pulled out her map. Elizabeth's ranch is 2 days north, but there's a telegraph station half a day east. I'll send word to the marshal while you warn your sister. William shook his head. I won't leave you. Will you have to, she insisted, touching his fevered arm. You're not healed. Take my horse. He knows the trails. Reluctantly, he pressed his father's watch into her hands. 2 days. If you don't hear from me, get to Marshal Hayes in Laramie. Clara kissed him fiercely, then led his horse toward the creek, leaving clear tracks to draw the pursuit. She smiled grimly as the horn followed her, the war's lessons guiding her, sometimes. Protecting someone meant becoming the target. She led them on a chase, doubling back, crossing the creek to confuse her trail. But numbers overwhelmed her. At sunset, Reed's men surrounded her, their horn blaring triumphantly. Well, Reed drawled. The loyal nurse playing decoy. Where's Carver? Clara spat. Halfway to the marshal, telling them about your lies. His fist struck her face, and she tasted blood but laughed. String her up, a deputy growled, but Reed's eyes gleamed. No. She goes to town. We'll make an example of her. public and slow, bound and led toward Dust Creek. Clara touched the watch in her pocket. 2 days. She just had to hold out. The gallows rose in the town square, its shadow chilling Clara's cell. Reed leaned against the bars. Tell us where Carver is. And you might walk. Clara stared at the crowd outside, her voice steady. I once watched a man endure 3 days of questioning, never broke. He didn't even have the truth on his side. Reed's mask slipped, revealing fear. The crowd grew as they led her out. Faces she'd known for years now twisted with judgment. The gallows loomed, its pine boards warping in the heat. People of Dust Creek, Reed boomed. Clara Bennett stands accused of harboring Blackjack Kane. Murmurs rose, but Clara stood tall. I've lived here 5 years. She called, voice ringing. Helped your sick, birthed your babies. Have I ever given you cause to doubt me? The crowd shifted, uneasy. This isn't about judgment. Someone shouted, it's about the law. Clara laughed bitterly. Like the law that covered up Thomas Harper's death, or lets the syndicate steal your water rights. Reed's pistol butt struck her, splitting her lip. Enough. But Clara pressed on. Ask why Reed wears a borrowed badge. Ask why no one's seen Carver's body. Ask who profits when you turn on each other. Doubt spread through the crowd. Mrs. Larson stepped forward. My cousin says there's no body at Carver Ranch. Others joined in. Questions piling up. Reed's gun shook. Lock her up. Tomorrow. We do this proper. Back in her cell, Ellen slipped her a prayer book from Reverend Cole, its pages hiding evidence of the syndicate's crimes. Bribes, murders, forged deeds. James will come, Ellen whispered. Clara gripped her hand. If he's smart, he won't to Deary. Maron, did you send the telegram? Ellen nodded. Coded. Searched her warm, like you said. Alone. Clara read the evidence by lamplight, memorizing names and dates. The key Ellen had slipped her, a war relic that could unlock the cell, burned in her boot. Escape was tempting, but Clara knew the greatest victory was forcing the truth into the open. At dawn, the sunrise bell tolled 5 times, marking execution hour. Reed opened her cell. Last chance. Clara faced him, voice calm. My father said there are 2 kinds of cowards, those who run from evil, and those who hide behind badges. His hands trembled, fear betraying him. The crowd parted as they led her to the gallows, their silence heavy. Clara saw Old Man Harper. Ashamed, Mrs. Larson, when Modia Surancho, defiant Ellen, her locket gleaming. Reed addressed the crowd. Justice delayed is justice denied. But Clara saw doubt in their eyes, fixed on his borrowed badge. The bell tolled again as they positioned her on the trapdoor, the rope rough against her neck. Any last words? Reed sneered. Clara scanned the horizon, then spoke. I've spent my life healing, never asking who deserved it. You know me. Why would I risk everything unless the man I helped wasn't what Reed claims? Ask why he needs a borrowed badge. Ask who wants Carver's water rights. Reed's pistol struck her again, but she smiled. Blood trickling. The bell's 5th toll began, and Reed gripped the lever. Any prayers? He mocked. When may rare? Just one. Clara said. May God forgive you for what you're about to see. As the bell faded, a shot rang out. A deputy fell from the church tower, and hooves thundered into the square. Get away from her. William Carver's voice roared. He rode in, silver spurs glinting with a U. Essam, in a cemetery synonym, Marshal Starr, a dozen federal marshals behind him. Beside him was Abigail Carver, his sister, one son and one, holding documents that would shatter Reed's lies. Try Marshal Carver, William called, appointed to expose corruption. You knew that when you tried to kill me. Reed's hand tightened on the lever. Stay back, or she dies. Abigail's voice cut through. We have proof, murders, forged deeds, bribes, and a confession from the real Blackjack Kane, hired by Reed to terrorize farmers. The crowd surged, anger turning on Reed. He jerked the lever, and Clara stumbled as the trapdoor shifted. No, you won't, she whispered, slashing the rope with Ellen's hidden knife. She dove forward as Reed's shot splintered the gallows. Ellen emerged, swinging a plank that felled Reed. That's for Thomas, she spat. Chaos erupted. Reed's men surrendered, and William reached Clara. And pulling her up, cut it close. Marshal, she said, leaning into him. Had to wait for Abigail's evidence, he replied, arms tightening. Abigail approached, smiling. Our family owes you, Clara, Milesun. The evidence would break the syndicate, restoring water rights and compensating victims. William pulled Clara close. I brought a preacher. If you're willing. She touched his face. Bold of you to assume I'd say yes. He grinned. Turatachinron, holding up the watch. Bold got me this far. A year later, Clara stood on her homestead porch, baby Grace in her arms. Named for hope. William F. now her husband, wore his marshal's badge proudly. The family portrait captured them with Ellen, Abigail, and the community, Old Man Harper, Mrs. Larson, Reverend Cole, united by courage. Roses from the town garden bloomed around them, a symbol of healing. The syndicate's empire had fallen, water flowed freely, and 32 families had reclaimed their land. Clara touched the faded scar on her neck, then looked at Grace, wearing Abigail's mother's pendant. Ready, video rentumen, she said, as the camera flashed, capturing a story of mercy, justice, and a community reborn. Hey, my friend and Ray, folks. If this tale of courage and redemption moved you, join us at One Kind Moment. Subscribe for more stories that inspire, and tell us where you're tuning in from. Let's keep the light of kindness burning bright.